friends at Stevivor.com. It's me, Mario. Hee you guys number one.
It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 249. It's the last week of September 2023. We've got a whole bunch of announcements. We're going to save Tokyo Game Show for next week, or I don't know. There's too much to talk about now because we've had a Nintendo Direct and a State of Play since we last talked, and then a whole bunch of video games. So, Ben, I think we need to get in it. Did I say who you were? Ben Salter, I'm Steve Wright. Just the shorthand. Let's go.
Let's get into it.
Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, well, we were meant to talk about this last week, but then Xbox leaked all their plans forever, so we didn't. We're going to talk about it this week, and so we got a Nintendo Direct and a State of Play like within the same day, basically. It was, I would say, it was the remake Direct. It was very much a look at all the games that we're remaking.
Yeah.
The big hitter was at the end, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, which did look pretty good. It's the GameCube one that people like. So of all the Paper Marios, it's the one that people like the most. It's the one that costs $1 million on secondhand sales now because it's so hard to get. And I think we've got a pretty good steer that GameCube is never coming to Switch Online. They've just decided to remaster, remake, re-release, port, whatever they want to do. And fair enough for the higher quality games. I think that's fair enough. Unlike Metroid Prime Remastered, this is a proper remake, I think, and it's going to be full price. So, which is fine. So that was kind of the main thing. The confusing thing for me, and you might notice less, is Paper Mario became the Mario RPG series, right?
Yeah.
They're also remaking Mario RPG, which is the first SNES one, and they're going to release these games within like 6 months of each other. Like, weird to bundle them like that. There must be a reason why, but they're very similar.
Well, it's a good thing I have no interest in either of them. So I won't be confused or have any issues. I also have zero interest in Mario vs. DK, or Donkey Kong.
Also a remake, I think.
On Game Boy Advance, yeah. So that's... By the time that one came out and I had to write about it, I'm like, Nintendo's just announced that another old game is being brought to the Switch. Like, care factor was so low, if I'm just old and jaded generally, but it's following a long line of Nintendo just re-releasing games.
Re-releasing things. That said, they haven't done that many remasters, remakes. They've done a lot of ports in their time. A lot of just, here's the game exactly as it was, pay us again for it. Yeah. But in terms of improving them, compared to what especially Sony's done, they haven't done that much. But now they're kind of like the last year or so of Switch, and that's clearly what we're in.
Oh, yeah.
They seem to be like, let's not waste any of our big hitters. Let's just re-release or remake or remaster or enhance port some old classics. And that's okay. The other one that was a remake is Contra, that's a bit of a different one in that's the NES game being remade. So we're going back pretty far. I'm going to imagine that's pretty cheap as well. And then there was another Code games, one of them being a DS game, one of them being a Wii game. That one was hard to tell if it's a full remake or if it's like you remember this game as like a 2D 144p DS game. We've just up-resed it, so it looks a bit different. Don't know. I don't really care for that one that much. But yes, very much the direct of remakes, remasters, probably their weakest one in a long time because of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they're saving stuff. Having said that, of the first party games...
Luigi's Mansion 2. Again,
Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, yet another port. Why didn't they do Luigi's Mansion 1 first HD? Like, they already ported that to 3DS. Port that version over to... Because that's a way better game than Luigi's Mansion 2. Anyhow, I know we may as well run through all of them. Princess Peach Showtime. It was the direct of Mario as well. And so they're very much cashing in on the Mario movie, doing extremely well by releasing a gazillion Mario games.
Well, but at the same time that they've ditched Charles Martinet, and they finally put out that video where like Charles and Miyamoto were talking, and like I don't think Charles Martinet knows what a Mario ambassador is to this day.
He said he doesn't know.
Yeah, okay, sorry that we fired you, but I guess you're still on the payroll. And like, what are they doing with voices? We don't even know if Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which comes out in October,
in 1 month,
has Martinet, or if it's going to be a Chris Pratt sound-alike, or like, what is happening with this?
I think they're going to go the Chris Pratt style. Like, I think they want to change his voice. I think they want to move it forward, and they don't want just the It's a Me Mario. They want someone who can actually speak And like, I guess that's what Nintendo's first party games do lack compared to everyone else is they can't have voice acting really because they've set up all their games to just have characters say like 4 words. It's weird when Peach has like 3 lines, and then Mario's just like, wahoo, and that's it. Like,
so maybe go full voice acting in like a Zelda game where it lends itself to this very organically. As opposed to a Mario game where you just want him to go, wahoo, it's a me. Like, come on, everybody has a Mario impression. Every single person on this planet. Maybe if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I digress.
I mean, Charles is pretty old. They had to move him on eventually. So,
but they could get anybody in the history of the world who isn't Chris Pratt to do a wahoo.
I don't think it would be Chris Pratt.
Oh, it's not gonna. They couldn't afford him.
I think they'll just go with a bit more. Someone who can speak a little bit more and change his accent a bit. Anyhow, it was a weaker direct, but I do give Nintendo the fact that they've had quite a few hits so far this year. It's been a pretty big year for games generally up to this point. Normally we wait for the big games to come out in October, but heaps have come out. The fact that they had probably the best remaster of the year with Metroid Prime, they've had one of the best games of the year with Zelda, even Pikmin was pretty good. They've had a lot already. So yes, they're relying on older games now to get them through to, I assume, Switch 2 or Switch U or Super Switch or whatever they call it. But it was an okay without being an amazing direct. It was very much a, hey, did you know that Chris Pratt Mario movie is now released on home digital streaming, whatever? You can also have all these Mario games to go with it.
Admittedly, a very good movie. I'll give it that. I didn't mind Chris Pratt for all the whinging that I've just done. I didn't mind him as much as I thought I would. But I do have a special place in my heart for the Wahoo, but that's beside the point.
Could be going.
I don't have a special place in my heart for PlayStation VR or PlayStation VR 2, and that was basically the focus of the PlayStation State of Play, which followed a couple hours after the Nintendo Direct. Yeah. For an announcement that it wouldn't have any kind of Sony stuff, they lied. They lied for certain. Sony lied for certain because they talked about Spider-Man 2. They also featured Final Fantasy 7, which isn't a Sony game, but Sony's paid kind of to make it a Sony game, exactly. And Capcom loves a bit of PlayStation, so we also got some Resident Evil 4 news. What do you want to talk about? I'm assuming we're not talking about VR, but what of the big announcements do you want to talk about first?
Well, that was it. So I think for all we kind of said that the Direct was a bit safe and bland for being remasters of Mario, this was way safer and blander and didn't really announce anything. So like the big hitting games were Spider-Man and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, both of which we know. Yep. Like they're old games that have been marketed to death, and we've almost seen them too much, and it's kind of like just release them already. And I suppose that's what we got for Final Fantasy. We're getting that on the sometime in February 2024.
29th, because it's the leap year day. That's the only reason why I remember.
That's what I thought it was going to be, but then I doubted myself. And I think they said it, like the little ad for it had 3 months timed exclusive or something, or like first on PlayStation until at least June 2024. So I don't think it's coming to Xbox at that point. It would be maybe, but it would be strange if it did because the first part hasn't. But maybe it's coming. Maybe that's a little sign to when Switch 2 is coming out, because there have been rumors that Final Fantasy VII Remake would be a Switch 2 launch title. Perhaps it's going to be a 1 and 2 deal.
Or it could have been that they paid for so long for the franchise from the first remake's release, and because they spruiked a bundle of. What's it called? It's such a silly name. Remake something Square Enix. Integrate. Oh yeah, it rolls off the tongue. And Rebirth, so maybe Xbox gets it. I highly doubt it. Maybe PC would get it. Switch 2? Probably. No. Definitely PC, maybe something else.
Maybe Switch 2, potentially. Anyhow, actually what will happen is Part 1 at full price will launch on Switch 2, but then Part 2 never will because it won't be able to run on it. That's what will happen. Spider-Man was just more Spider-Man. Like, I really like the Marvel's Insomniac's Spider-Man series, but I don't really need any marketing for it. I've already played at least 1.5 of these games. You may even call it 2 because there was a remaster in there between those coming out. I don't really need to see more. Like, yeah, you can now like glide around the city. Cool. The city's a bit bigger, so I guess moving around it quicker makes sense. But like, I just really need to play it now. I don't Don't need any more marketing for this.
Yeah, well, bigger map. Oh, like, okay. Like, the map's pretty big already.
Looks like
I don't need a bigger map.
A quicker fast travel though, and that is where current gen comes in. Like you can just zoom around and instantly load off an SSD, which we couldn't do last gen.
Yeah,
So
and a Grand Theft Auto
important.
5 like character switch, so you can be Miles and then Peter and vice versa, and it like very much getting the GTA 5 vibes, which obviously wasn't as quick, but like you switch to Trevor or whatever, and he's like beating up a homeless person, and then you take over or whatever. I don't think Miles Morales is going to do that necessarily, but I like the idea of it. It will be something that's a novelty the first 3 times you switch, and then you'll take it for granted immediately thereafter. But it's nice to kind of see, like, I don't know if it needs to be pointed out, but those are the kind of little bits and pieces that we get as a result of current gen consoles, and that's just nice to have. But yeah, it didn't make me any more excited. I've already pre-ordered it because I want to play it, and there's some bonuses tied, and like it's not going to get cheaper for a while because it's a Sony game, or like I might get it $20 cheaper or $15 if I get it from Amazon, but I'm impatient and I can just buy it from my anyway. Yes, I'm excited for that. I'm super excited for Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways DLC, which is it wasn't originally in RE4, it was added on the PS2 iteration. But it shows you what Ada's doing while you're playing the main story, and it brings a lot of things that were cut from the remake RE4 as compared to the original RE4, like stupid laser room that was made literally just because that's what they had in the one Resident Evil movie and it was cool at the time. But like, it's nice to see those kind of like throwbacks to RE4. I almost wish I would have done the same thing with RE3 and added some content back in that was more of an homage, but that was a failure. And RE4 was good. So that's out like tomorrow. That's out not even tomorrow. I let the cat out of the bag. We're recording this late. Shoot, darn it. Anyway, it's out on the 21st of September.
What's that? I already played it.
It's already out by the time you hear this. My bad. We could I was gonna say we could just go back and delete that segment, but I'm too lazy to do it. So whatever, but do it live, but recorded.
Depends how much it costs. Maybe I'll play that. I'm not a DLC person, and I've moved on from Resident Evil 4, so it needs to be amazingly good for me to go back to it. And I'm not sold.
So does that mean you're not going to play Cyberpunk, Phantom Liberty?
Probably not. When I played Cyberpunk, I spent like 3 weeks just in that city, played it. And this is 2 years after launch when it was good. Played it, loved it, got through it. No intention of going back. Like I very rarely find it interesting, and it's just too hard to get my mind back into it. And there's new stuff to play. I think that's the thing. That's why I'm not playing that much on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, I've realized. It's because if games don't launch on it, it's either, when old games come to those services, it's either something I've already played, so I don't want to play it, or it's something I am interested in, but there's just so many new games coming out. I don't have time to go back to it. And I find the same for DLC. Like I've moved on.
Well, it's funny you say that because we've actually played... Well, I think I've played more than you, unless you have extra ones to add to this list. But we've actually played some games. So we should probably talk about playing games for once, as opposed to watching a 2-minute trailer on a screen. I'm going to go first just because I have way more than you and we need to cut you in at some point. But I played Mortal Kombat 1 and reviewed it. Reviews on Stevivor.com. I said last week it's 140 gig download. But like, this was the first time the Xbox did that PlayStation thing. So when you download it, it brings up like a weird thing on the screen that I've never seen before. Like every single like cloud prompt, or when you turn off the Xbox, like the thing that comes on top, like one of those. And it's like, you can choose what you download. And it let me toggle on or off the 4K segments to the game.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like 99 gigabytes before the 4K stuff and 140 with the 4K stuff. And because we got the game a day and a half before the embargo, I'm like, well, 4K I'll see you later. So that was kind of neat. Like it's totally like a novelty and doesn't really matter.
Other games had that. COD's had that for a few years.
Did it do that? I've never seen the prompt come up though.
Maybe there's no prompt. I can't remember how it happens, but you can definitely toggle.
Well, once you hit yes on the prompt, it just takes you to the manage, like the thing that you use to move and copy and download DLC and stuff. So like once you got there, it was really intuitive as to what you were doing. But I've never had that. I've never recall having that kind of proposed to me on Xbox.
Now, what about the game?
Oh yeah, it's good. It looks really good. It's pretty. It's more Mortal Kombat. And the big thing is the cameo, the secondary fighters to help you and to do extra fatalities and stuff. Long story short, I think I like the speed of Street Fighter 6 better. I like in Street Fighter 6 the ability to do like easy moves with less button presses, and you can kind of graduate up to more complex. Mortal Kombat sort of has that with easy fatalities, but you need to buy tokens and they cost real world money. So yeah, like it's a mixed bag. The story is really cliched, but in weird ways. Like, we know that Liu Kang is the god and Raiden's just the mortal, and they take characters that you know and basically keep them the same, but maybe like flip one big thing about them that's like shock. But when like that's the case with every single character, you can kind of see it coming quite a ways away, and then it kind of divulges into multiverse stuff to a point where it's like, if this was a couple of years ago maybe, but now it's like everything is doing it. And Invasions mode is like the big post-game, post-story kind of selling point for that, and it's literally just the multiverse. I think it was just called multiverse in Injustice 2, where it's like Sub-Zero has scorpion powers, ooh, and it's, you know, like it's good if you really, really like fighters, but otherwise it's a lot of a grind. Like, I played it for the 4 days of early access, and I've gotten my fill of it. So if you're sort of a casual player, take that as you will, especially for like $120. I think it's one of those premium priced ones. So not bad, but just like, yeah, it is what it is.
A Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah. What about you? You've been playing Armored Core 6. You're getting that FromSoft bug.
Really, I've just been playing Starfield and a little bit of Pikmin, but as you know, I'm a FromSoft guy now, Steve, because of this show, because you made me play Elden Ring and then I played Dark Souls. So I'm now a FromSoft guy, so I thought I'd go back to where it all began. They obviously were known for Armored Core a long time ago. Before there was Souls, there was Armored Core. And I think a lot of people have done what I've done, and they bought the game based on the fact that they liked Elden Ring, so they bought the next game from FromSoft, and it's nothing like those games. But it's a cool mech game. Like, I've only played an hour or so. I'm on the fence about how much more I'll play. It's kind of like do I want to commit to this or not? But I do like that the mission structure it's chapters and then missions within that, and you could easily play like 15, 20 minutes and put it down again once you've got the controls. So the opening mission actually is quite challenging at the end. I'm sure there's going to be way more challenging bosses. I know for a fact there will be. But the first one is quite challenging in that you haven't learnt the controls yet. You haven't learnt how everything works, how shields work, what you're meant to be doing. And you kind of just defeat some pretty easy pleb enemies. And you kind of know how your gun works, but you don't need to dodge or anything. And then this boss just comes and whomps you. And that's a FromSoft move. And I probably died to it 4 or 5 times, just getting nowhere near it. And then the 6th time it clicked and I easily defeated it. So it was kind of like I think it might have that. I'm sure there's going to be much more in-depth and longer bosses than what I've encountered in an hour or so. But I suspect it's going to have those real punishing, annoying boss battle fights that you still want to keep going at because you see yourself getting that little bit better and you think, I can beat it this time. I can beat the machine. It's very different, but I don't mind it.
Well, if you get sick of that and you want more of an Elden Ring experience, FromSoft didn't make Lies of P, but like they almost could have. It's on Xbox Game Pass, so if you haven't played it and you don't want to risk a purchase, you can most likely give it a trial depending on your subscription status. It's Elden Ring, but looks like Bloodborne. Kind of that steampunk
and has
vibe.
Pinocchio in it or something?
The Lies of P, the P is Pinocchio. So you wake up in the world of Krat, which is based on the original Pinocchio work, where puppets have seemingly been taken over by some sort of like evil force, but you're Pinocchio, you're different. So you have to go and try to fight stuff, and there's a lot of voice acting, and there's a lot of story in it, and I don't know if the story's that good, but like, you get to the main hub world after beating the first boss, and it's like, you have to lie now to get in. It's like, ooh, remember, this is Pinocchio, and that's what he does. But in terms of like enemies and level design, And, you know, like that kind of first boss that you hit where you're like, I can probably do this, and you just get whomped, like, exactly like you just said with Armored Core. You know, then you just go run around the hub world and get some souls, not that they're called souls, and level up, and then, you know, like, oh, I get this now, I have to block and do this. It's if you like Elden Ring, you're going to like this. If you like Pinocchio, which I don't know if there's any diehard Pinocchio fans out there, it'll be up your alley. It's really good. I really like it. It's one of those games though where it's just probably released at a very bad time. I want to play it, but I also have a million other things to play. But it's on Game Pass, at least for now. Who knows how long it's going to stay. But if you have a lull, I would highly recommend it, but not considering what's coming out.
Weird,
the next couple
they
weeks.
released it now. Sounds like the perfect January Game Pass game.
Yep. I would fully agree with that. It's good. It looks really pretty too. And the one cool thing about it is if you die die in a boss, your souls don't like stay where you died to the boss. They just kind of materialize in the room before. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, if I am bashing my head against this wall, I don't lose the souls I earned. I can just pick them up and try again, which is like just a nice little quality of life thing that I'm surprised hasn't happened in a Souls game. But I guess they're intentionally hard, so maybe From's like, why would we do that? No, you have to suffer. I will quickly try to get through the last two games that I've been playing. They're both car related. The first one was Forza Motorsport, which was a preview of the game coming out in October. It's very much more Forza Motorsport this time without a number. It didn't look amazingly better or anything, or presentation than the last Motorsport that I played.
They already look great.
It's really hard to screw up a car game, like in terms of look, and especially if you're going for realism. If you like that kind of thing, it's great. I'm more of a Forza Horizon person. That said, I'm also was playing the Crew Motorfest, which is Ubisoft's 100% one-to-one ripoff of Forza Horizon. It's weird though because it's trying really hard to be Horizon, but also it's like, we're the crew. Remember this? You can change into an airplane and a boat, but like you don't, because it's Horizon. So you drive from point to point and then get in a race, and then you can't transform into a boat in the race because you're racing. It has like a weird identity problem where, like, if you really like the Horizon franchise and you want to race around Hawaii, great, but like that's all I have to say about that. It's not bad, it's just very meh, and I've been here and I've done that, and the things that make it the Crew have been like erased almost to the point of you can't even recognize
it was a classic. When I remember the very early previews for the Crew, and the concept sounded really cool. It sounded almost like, and that was probably earlier online play days when it wasn't as common to do stuff like that, but it was basically get together with your friends and drive across, was it the US or something at the time? And it was like a massive map, and it was kind of like, hey, Top Gear, it's kind of like you get to do that with your friends online and it's going to be cool. And then they pivoted to, and that wasn't really like that. Like, there was just not enough to do, and it was like no one ever actually plays like that. So it was kind of a bit of a generic racing game. And then they tried to do more Horizon, and it just didn't really work out. And the fact that they're kind of like, hey, it's the Crew, it's a regular Ubisoft franchise, it doesn't feel like that. This is probably like the fourth version of this game, or the fourth installment or so. No one really knows the Crew. Like, it's never taken off, and it's weird they're persisting with it.
Well, and it has all the touch points. Like, if they had to make a checklist of things Horizon does, you're like, yep, Motorfest does this, and this. But it does the core stuff so wrong. Like, even Forza Horizon now is getting a little bit long in the tooth for me. And they all kind of blend into one another. And But the one thing they do properly is that you start the game and it's like, ooh, I'm in a really, it's dropped me off a cliff and I'm now, almost racing vertically down this mountain face, and it's really cool. And then it seamlessly kind of transitions me in a way that makes sense into, ooh, I landed in a forest and I keep going. And you're doing all these things yourself. Motorfest starts and it's just like a 5-minute, I don't know about the timings, but it's like a 5-minute video, and then it's like, race for 20 seconds, and then we'll go back to another video where we're talking at you, and then we'll drop you into a completely separate race in a different vehicle, completely disconnected for 20 seconds, and then we'll put you in another video for a while. not letting you do the cool things. It's just showing you the cool things that you can maybe do, which I've not done, even though I didn't really stick with it. But like it's that like, oh, this is cool. Like, trust us. Like, just watch this. It's like, no, like I want to do that. I don't want to watch it. I want to do it. And that was a big turning off point for me. That's a sentence that'll work.
It feels like a while since we've had a good Ubisoft game, but if we kind of look ahead to games that are coming out in October, the biggest month of the year, I would say, we've got Assassin's Creed Mirage, and that feels to me like their return to form. Like it. Not to say I dislike the bigger open world, massive, sprawling, continuing Assassin's Creed games. I've really enjoyed playing Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, but I don't want that again. I just don't have time for that again. It's too much. I miss the more tight, linear controlled, you're an assassin, do the assassination style Assassin's Creed, not the million things on the map. So that's what they're promising we're going back to some degree. And that's more what I want from Assassin's Creed at this point.
Yeah, like, loved Origins, like, Odyssey is the best one of the lot. And Valhalla, I kind of, like, I played it for the most part because I kind of felt like I had to. And that's not a fun way to really engage with a game.
Yeah.
So I'm down for, we're old. Let's face it. A short 8-hour game, like, chef's kiss. So
eight good hours is better than 58 long, tedious hours.
October is a crazy month, though. Like we talked about Forza, that comes out on the 10th. NHL for me is on the 6th. We'll skip that. Another one that I really am keen for, I don't know if you've ever played Stellaris or familiar with Stellaris.
I heard of it, but no, not really.
It's like a space strategy game, super complex and very popular with modders. And there's like 2 gigantic Star Trek mods, like different Star Trek mods. I think one started and then they had a falling out. So one of the people like left and formed his own second group, and like depending on who you talk to, one is clearly better than the other, but no one has consensus as to which is which. Paradox went, why are we letting people mod this to such success? Why don't we just go to CBS and get the license and do it properly? And that's what Star Trek Infinite is. I'm super keen for that. I don't know how I'm going to play that though, because that's on the 13th. On the 20th, we get 2 huge games in Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Brothers Wonder. And then a week later is the indisputed best game of the year, even though I've never played it yet, or I just want to, Alan Wake 2. Like, it's a big month for video games.
It's a big month. The 2 big hitters for me are on the same day, so that's annoying. Who decided to do that? Very annoying. It also means we've only got a few weeks to finish up Starfield and to get the backlog done. This is the problem. They keep releasing new games, and I'm just drawn to the new thing. So I still haven't played Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I really do want to play it, but it feels like an old game now, and I've missed the boat. So I need to find time to slot that in. Maybe it will become my January game, actually, possibly.
Yep.
It's been such a big year, and for so long it didn't feel like that's what was happening, but we just kept getting great game upon great game, and it's suddenly getting into October, the normally busy month, and it's busy as well.
Yeah.
And so there's just so much come out. I would probably say normally the busy period extends into November, and maybe it doesn't as much this year. It kind of feels like October's the end. We get COD like we always do. We get that Far Cry Avatar game in December. But like it basically ends in October compared to what has been in previous years. But we've had such a big year that I imagine everyone's backlog is overflowing just from this year alone. So I don't mind that we get a little respite.
I'm definitely not going to finish Starfield in time, so, like, haha, that you even suggested that. You
got to play just constantly like me. You should be up to, 40, 50 hours already, so it's the only way.
Not going to happen. I really do not think that's going to happen. But I'm excited to have a huge backlog over Christmas that I will not get to, and maybe in March, that's when I'll get to some of these things. The Jedi Survivor was really, really good. I endorse that wholeheartedly, and it's a lot better now, I guess, on consoles. So you've done that like Cyberpunk thing where you've waited for it to get really good.
That is the thing. I feel like I've done the opposite with Starfield. I am gonna finish it relatively soon because I need to be done with it. And I bet you in 6 months it's going to be way better, a bunch of things fixed, a bunch of improvements, and that will be the ideal time to play. Not that there's anything wrong with it at the moment, really. But yeah, it's like as much as I am drawn to play these games at launch, that's the best time to play them. As we've just seen with Jedi Survivor, that's now what? Not even 6 months since it came out, and it's had some pretty big improvements. So you're probably better off not actually playing at launch, even though all the marketing, all the things to trick your brain into you absolutely must play at launch are in play. It seems to be you're better off not doing that.
Just make sure you mute things or hope that you listen to podcasts that have spoiler warnings, because I was listening to Job and Luke and they let loose a very big Starfield spoiler that I had no idea of, that I'm actually quite mad that they talked about so flippantly, but I won't divulge what that is, of course.
I think we'll put massive spoiler warnings around the fact that we talk about Mario's voice in Super Mario Wonder. That's going to be top priority. What does he sound like? We won't touch any story from Spider-Man, so you're safe there.
Well, we won't, at least ahead of any embargoes, because we're going to be coming into it fresh as a daisy, like every other person who's not getting a copy early. Which is fine. That'll just be a pure enjoyment game. There's nothing wrong with a pure enjoyment game. That said, a pure enjoyment game that I have to finish in a week, because then it's Alan Wake time. How
do you prioritize? How do you
Alan Wake wins. That's not even a priority. Okay, Alan Wake wins. Alan Wake wins only because I would frequent all of the different things that people would talk about, theories and stuff. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm going to get that early anyway, so I don't have to worry about that so much. But I want to be helping people kind of make some of those connections and point out things, and that's the fun bit about a Remedy game for me, especially with Control and stuff. Luke and I finding those Maneki echoes was one of the still favoriteest things I've done in terms of video games, and it's just kind of exploring that crazy world and figuring out how they're connected, and how Sean Ashmore's in it. He's not playing the character of that he was playing in Quantum Break, but there was Alan Wake in that too. They're all connected. It's going to be exciting.
One thing. Yeah,
I think
you're most hyped for probably the least hyped of all the games coming out in October. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
Everyone gets to enjoy what they want to enjoy. Actually, I think Spider-Man's clearly the most hyped game there, but I do think at least Spider-Man lends itself the way it is. If it's like the previous two games, it's going to be quite repetitive. It's going to be very go to the point on the map that you need to get to. But at least that style of game lends itself to being played in conjunction with something else. I think you could play Spider-Man and Mario or Spider-Man and Alan Wake at the same time. Whereas something like Starfield, I think you need to just be Starfield, really. Otherwise, you lose it a bit.
Oh yeah, big time. I've burned through two of the factions, and I'm working my way through the other two. Got married. That was exciting. I won't tell who.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't bother with that.
Fun. Why not get married? I picked the trait to get a mortgage in the game. I might as well have a partner as well.
You're just redoing your whole life.
I know. What am I thinking? Ugh. So Spider-Man will be fun, so I can shoot webs and seamlessly transition between characters across Brooklyn and Manhattan. Ta-da. How do we find you on the internet if you're not too busy playing October's video games?
Well, yeah, you can find me on Xbox. I don't know. What's my thing? Grillis. That's me. You can probably see that I'm just playing Starfield. Otherwise, I'm on Zeta, whatever. I'm just going to, you know what? I'm going to call it here. I'm just going to keep saying Twitter forever because who cares, Elon? Twitter, Ben_Salter. That's it.
I heard he's planning to charge everyone to use Twitter, so maybe you won't be on Twitter very soon. We'll find out. I'm SRite AU, and we'll be having a lot of stuff on the website, I'm assuming, at this point. So get ready, batten down the hatches, because the video games are coming, and we'll be here weekly-ish. You've got some big life things coming up, so we'll see how that goes. But mostly, we'll be here weekly, and we'll talk about it.
We'll be here weekly. Thanks for listening this week. We'll see you next week.